Okay, dead battery. Like I was saying, I had this whole system, this whole wire with the ends in my number 2 copper bucket, and I decided to cut these off. You see there's a lot of good copper in there. Because they're tin coated, I don't want to put that in with what I melt, because what I want to melt is all just clean copper. I don't want any tin, I don't want anything in there. But that allows me then, I mean, look how thick this is. This is still officially number 2 copper because each individual strand is not the thickness of a pencil lead. So it's really a crime to only get number 2 copper price for this, which is why I'm gonna melt it and it'll be number 1. Even if you look at these pieces that came off of the windings that I'm gonna have to get off of here, this is a nice big chunk of copper. But if you look on the backside, these things are press fit into aluminum plates, and it leaves a little bit of aluminum right there. And that's why I'm calling this number 2 copper. It's also why I'm not going to melt it, because I don't want to get any aluminum in there of any kind. Because anytime I take copper bars in to get money, they will take one randomly and break it in half and check it, and I want that thing to show up 99.9. And up until this point, it has always come in at 99.9, and I'm not going to do anything to mess that up by melting tin coated stuff or anything that has a little, even trace amounts of aluminum or anything like that. Not going to happen. So this is my number 2 bucket right here. I'm combining all of my copper buckets. I had like 3 of them floating around. And then this bucket over here is what I'm going to melt. That's all number 2 stuff that's super clean. I got the table out of here. I got the wire stripper over on this table right here under a little towel. And we're getting there. I can't fit a truck in here, but I could fit something. More to do. Okay, we're going to try something different here, see if it works. But you can see there's a seam right here. And this block of metal has been welded to this block and then to this block. If I can cut these 2 seams and get these outer pieces off and possibly push the thing through, I'll have to do it on both sides, but let's see how this works. Actually, it's going to have to be done on both ends. Might just cut both of them and then flip this whole thing around. Okay, that broke. Tell you what, good deal. Let's do this one. That one's broke. Okay. Okay. That wasn't ideal, however, look what we just got. Okay.
What kind of tube is this?
Hold on. All right, there's neighbor Danny holding his tube again. Bike tube.
It's kind of limp.
It is limp, as can be. All right, let's see if we can get this thing to come apart. I didn't cut it at the right spot. This thing's going. There it goes. Bringing in the big dog. Oh. Okay. That's what we wanted. I may not have cut that one. Okay. So we got carnage, but I did that so I could hopefully push that through rather than having to cut all that. That would be really nice. I actually have doubts. We'll give it a couple hits and see if it does anything. That was the whole point, so I could knock it out that way. Doesn't look like it's gonna work. Might have to cut it anyway. Shoot. See, the problem I'm running into with these is that there's so much glue that they poured on these that these things are just glued to that center post. So knocking that center post through without having to cut the windings is almost impossible. Which is very frustrating because I don't want to have to do that, but they have to anyway. It's my number 2 copper here. Welcome to Scholar Metals, by the way. This is my number 2 copper. I got to get it to the storage unit, or to the scrapyard, the storage unit. It's Friday afternoon, man. It's been a long week, so my brain is absolute marshmallows. But curious to know how much this bucket of number 2 is. Ugh. 85.5 pounds. That's a lot of copper. So it makes sense for me to get it taken in. So I might as well try to, if I'm going to go down there, then I might as well take my rads with me. So I got a couple there, but I got to get the rads off of this, so that'll give me something to work on. I also have rads over there that I need to get the noodles off of. Bunch of motors. Get this copper out of here, and then I've got cast aluminum. It's like I said, it's Friday afternoon. I'm just gonna fart around and get some stuff done. Stainless. I don't know. This isn't the greatest stuff, but when I go to the HVAC place, I find this stuff in there every time I go there. So maybe kind of crazy not to grab it, but it's just not that heavy. You're not going to get a lot of money for it. But then here's a piece of copper that has a lot of foam on it stuck to it. I definitely wouldn't try to melt this. With all that foam, clean it up as much as possible, so don't want them to try to reject it. Cleans off pretty nice, actually. I mean, I probably could melt it, but no point. It's I'll probably end up with a lot of slag. Okay, put that in that bucket. This bucket right here is all number 2 as well. That's what I'll put the noodles in. is number 2. Then we got a piece of brass right here. Nice brass. Put that down there. This is all number 2 copper. So that's number 2. Come on. How dirty this is. Just takes the slightest amount of brains to save yourself a lot of money. Whoever owned this AC just chucked it because it stopped working. And look at all this. If they had just taken the wire brush and got all that debris off of it, it would have worked just fine. But no. It's a little nerve-wracking, man. You do it this way. I suggest you don't do it this way. I mean, it's just nerve-wracking. Gotta hang on to that thing like it's stealing everything you got. It wants to buck. Son of a... Ever heard of the term a beautiful disaster? Well, that's what we got going on right here. Finally got all the copper off of these, and now I'm working to free up some of this copper and get it away, get the paper off of it so that it looks more presentable when I take it in. Maybe I don't need to do that. I'm doing it anyway because I do not want them to not accept it. So that's that. I'll be back once I work on that. Okay, Sunday night, going into the scrapyard tomorrow. Let's get some weights. That's what I'm taking in. Gonna subtract 4 pounds for the bucket. 42, 42.5. Plus 92.8 minus 2 pounds for this bucket. Plus 70.3. Oh, wait, no. I take that back. That's number 1 copper. $70.3 here. Plus that. Cast aluminum. Remember, all these were in those Welders. So we'll take 4 pounds off for that. That's 32.8. 32.8. Then the sheet aluminum. We'll go 5 pounds on that larger bucket. So that's 40.3. Let's see what I have for rads. Can't remember if I get $2 a pound for these. £29 on the button. Okay. That's what I got going on tomorrow. Little scrap iron. So this is what I got for totals: 135 pounds of number 2. Just under 92 pounds of number 1. And the rest here. So let's see what we get when we go there. All right, it is Monday morning. We're on our way to the scrapyard. I actually called in sick today. Not feeling good, but I had my truck loaded up, ready to go to the scrapyard. And so, looking at copper price, seeing that copper's up a little bit. It's at, it was $4.88 the last time I checked. So I'm hoping, you know, for number 1 copper anyway, we're going to get a good price. Number 2, we should get a decent price as well. So we're going to see what happens here. My hope is that bottom line $800, could be 900. I didn't get real specific with my math, so it could be more than that even, but we'll see. So it's a nice day today. So we're going to see what happens here. Finally clean. Okay, I'm going to show you here on my computer screen what I got for the metals that I took back to the recycler. You see the number one copper was 22 pounds. Now before I said it was 90 some pounds. We had to make that number two copper. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But anyway, number one copper was paying $4.13, which is awesome. Price is up today. I got $90.86. Number two copper. I thought I had 135 pounds. It ended up being 204 pounds because I had the bars that I had poured. I had to make those number two. Price for number two copper was still $4.04, so I got $824.16. Sheet aluminum, I had 41 pounds. Price per pound was 54 cents, $22.14. Cast aluminum, 32 pounds, 62 cents a pound, 1984. And then the rads, 29 pounds, $2.19 a pound. That's a great price. I don't know what you all give, but man, those rads are worth saving and finding if you can find them. So $64 for that, for a total of $1,021. Okay, so for people that don't like the lines, I apologize. But let me tell you what happened. So usually when I take my copper bars in to the recycler, they'll take one of my bars, break it in half, and then they'll hit it with their XRF gun. And every time I've done that, it's come back 99.9% copper. So everything's been good. And that goes back to the very first time I met their manager, who was a super cool dude. Showed me around, showed me how they break the bars, how they test it and all that. And it was very interesting. So I'm thankful to him for that. That was a couple of years ago. And ever since then, I've taken bars in. They're like, well, we got to get one tested. I'm like, no problem, go ahead. And it's always come back good. This time, instead of taking the bar away to the non-ferrous building, they brought the XRF gun down to that area. And instead of breaking the bar in half, they shot the outside of it. And there were trace amounts of zinc and beryllium on a couple of them, which I thought was really strange. I'm sitting there going, it's going to be 99.9. It always has. And you guys saw the metal that I was melting. I mean, that was just copper tubing and copper wire that didn't even have varnish on it. I mean, it was about as clean a copper as you could get. Here's what I think happened, and this is a lesson learned for me, but I think I melted that copper in a crucible that I had melted lead in before. And previous melts, I have done the same thing. And so that's where those trace amounts were coming from. Now, when I say trace amounts, in the past, my copper bars have come out 99.9. Well, today they came out 99.5, 99.4, that kind of thing. So still like way up there. The fact that we would call that number two copper is kind of crazy, but it didn't come out where it needed to come out. But anyway, I think I melted this copper in a crucible that I had melted lead in before. I'm guessing that's where the beryllium came from. As for the zinc, if you look at my last video, the scoop that I used to scrape out the dust on the top had a bunch of yellow powder on it from when I melted brass. And that's where the zinc would come from. And it was literally a trace amount, but it was there, and it's not really anything that I could argue with because I could see it right there on the gun. Now 99.5 versus 99.9, to me that's number one copper. That should have been considered number one, because any number one that people take in right now, copper tubing, that sort of thing, they're probably going to have trace amounts of something, probably a little bit of solder here and there because someone didn't cut it quite clean enough. So, you know, it is what it is. When I take it in bar form, I run the risk of that situation. Now, what that just tells me is going forward, I need to make sure that I use a brand new crucible, or a crucible that I know for a fact has only melted copper. And I also need to make sure that the spoon that I use to scoop stuff out is completely clean, and that won't have trace amounts either. So anyway, so that's the situation. I don't think it really cost me anything. If you look at this spreadsheet, I mean, the difference between, you know, number 1 and number 2 copper is 9 cents a pound. And so it doesn't come out to that much. I'm thrilled that I got 1,021. You know, all in all, it was a successful trip to the recycler. I had a good conversation with the lady at the front at Alter Metal. I'm not going to say her name. It doesn't. I don't want to, you know, mention that without her approval. But anyway, I apologized to her because I had given one of their workers a couple years ago, probably, a hard time, and was hard on him in one of my videos. And I'm probably going to delete that video, actually, because I just don't want that out there. I felt bad. I actually got to know the kid after the fact and liked him. And we got talking about sports and other things. And I hope that he and I had buried the hatchet. But this woman who works up at the front, she's the one that pays out, weighs and pays. She was still upset with me, and rightfully so, because that was her worker. And I was not nice to her worker, and she's protective of the people that work there. And so I can respect that. I do respect that. And so anyway, I knew there was some tension there, and I just told her that I was really sorry, that I had gone through a hard time a couple of years ago with my anxiety, and I could have done a lot better, should have done a lot better. So I hope that is water under the bridge and that we can move forward. Because like I said, up until that point, I mean, she was great and always treated me nice. She always talks to everybody and is friendly with everybody. And I hope to be one of those people that she's friendly with. Life would be better for everyone, I think. But my apology was sincere. So anyway, it was kind of an eventful day down at the recycle yard. So anyway, that's that. Got a good payout. I got another good payout previously on some stuff that I got from those welders that I had scrapped out. This was the big amount. This was the one with the majority of the copper. And $824 is a great payout for all the number 2. That number 2 wasn't just from those welders. There was other stuff as well, I believe. But that was a good chunk. Anyway, that is that. I appreciate you guys watching. Please hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Subscribe to the Detroit Lions if you haven't. Actually, don't unsubscribe if you're not a Lions fan. It's all fun and games. But they do look darn good, I must admit. All right. Peace out, guys. See you on the next one.